You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 389, Star Wars Visions Reflections Part 3. This is the final episode that we'll do for now, covering at least Star Wars Visions. Next week, we'll come back and do Ronin, which is the novel, so we'll follow up with that. But we're going to break down the final 3 episodes of Star Wars Visions tonight. Lope and Ocho, I don't remember how that's pronounced. Akakidi and the Elder. And speaking of elders, please welcome to the show, Jonesy the Elder. Now, I just saw you just change your name down there. So, right. Jonesy, how are you doing? You've got the beard. You definitely look like an elder at this point.
I do. I don't necessarily have all the craziness that goes with it, but I'm working on it.
Not yet.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes in due time, my friend, in due time.
Yeah, I mean, one day when I'm as old as you, although you look like you're, right out of Cub Scouts, but.
Shots fired. Okay, well, let's we've got a couple of things that happened here recently in the news that we want to cover. Right. Some announcements that came in last week that I've been out of pocket for like the last week, and that's partly why we're kind of doing some of these shows lately. So I haven't really been able to kind of follow the traction and the discourse that's been happening. But let's start with the Trail of Shadows comic book, because as we're recording this as of the 13th of October today, and the issue launched today. I've seen a lot of feedback. I haven't seen any spoilers yet, but I've seen a lot of feedback of people just gushing over this being their favorite. That's what I've seen. A lot of people saying this is their favorite High Republic comic and story so far, which I think, given where it kind of, what the content that they're dealing with and the storyline and kind of picking up right after the, what's it called?
Rising Storm?
Not Tempest, Rising Storm. I was going to say Tempest Runner. But coming off of Rising Storm kind of makes sense. I think this is a story that everybody's very interested. Heck, we even did a whole show on this. But aside from the comic coming out. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's out on Patreon.
That was last week on Patreon.
But aside from the content of the comic, which we're going to do in a Patreon episode this week, that'll be this week's Patreon episode for anybody that's $2 and above tier. You sent this link to me, and it's creepy. It is the song. I mean, we talked about this when we did the breakdown, right? There's some kind of a song going on there. There was some lyrics or something that were on each page, and I had mentioned at the time that someone said they'd heard this before. Maybe that was not true. I don't recall now if that was ever that ever panned out.
I read that again today, though, that it was in Rising Storm.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think it was Rising Storm. Maybe it was Tempest. No, I can't. Damn it.
It would make sense if it was, well, not necessarily, but it feels like it would be a natural fit in Tempest Runner. But I'm just trying to think, like, where would they stick it in Tempest Runner? You know?
Yeah.
Because that had music in the background, that sort of thing. But I didn't listen to the whole audiobook of the Rising Storm, so I couldn't tell you if it was in there or not. But either way, what are the origins of this creepy melody, this creepy lullaby?
Right. So Daniel Jose Older, DJO, doing DJO stuff. So he went and gave us all the lyrics, because we do get them in the comic, right? Do we? Well, no, we don't get all of them in the comic, but he went ahead and gave us the whole set of lyrics. We understand more about them and about like what was going on and why these are coming out in the comic. It's really, really interesting with Stellan Gios, and what might be happening here is very kind of intuitive, or not very intuitive, but it's really, really cool. But DJO posted, he put the lyrics to music. And being October is the only reason why I can think that this is why he's exactly doing this. Yeah. But it is really, really creepy. It's this little piano that sounds like it's recorded from the 40s or the 30s, like it's got a little scratch going, and it's fantastic, but it's really creepy. And it has the lyrics. We'll just read the lyrics if that's all right with you, Albert.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So it's Shri Karai Karai, we're coming to take you away. Shri Karai Karai, we're coming to take you away. They'll do what they can and they'll do what they must. But when they do find you, all you'll be is dust. Shri Karai Karai, we're coming to take you away. And there's the man right there, Mr. DJO, on his little synthesizing keyboard.
He looks so like innocent. There's a dog sleeping there,
Right.
but yeah.
So what do you think? All right, so what do you think about it? What's your first reaction when you kind of hear and read this, though?
Well, I wonder, like, so all joking aside, we know that, not to start speculating, you're getting crazy. This is literally in the last 5 seconds. This just came to me. But what if this was truly a lullaby, right? That Kufa or Kifa or whatever her name was, and Markion Row and their wherever they came from, this was something that was sung because the lullaby or the leveler. This is really about the leveler, right? It comes to turn you to dust. I mean, that's what I'm taking away here.
You haven't read the comic yet, have you?
No, not yet.
Oh, I don't want to spoil it then.
Okay.
They
Well, then why
tell
did
you at least why the Jedi know this song.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. After the show, you need to go read it.
Can you at least just tell me that we got some stuff right?
We haven't really got that far yet.
Okay.
We haven't really got
All
that
right.
far yet. This is still
So
very.
it's not a no.
Right. It's still an introductory thing. But guys, this book, I mean, I haven't read the reactions to it. I'm hooked though. For real. With comics, usually you get a good issue maybe here and there, but it's not always something that really grabs your attention, and it takes a while to warm up into it. This one is just, man, the mood and when we were saying it's going to be X-Files, you do have kind of this running monologue from Emmerich. But the way that it's done is just so perfect as he's moving in and out of these conversations, and his kind of perception of all of what's going on, as well as his perception of the characters that we already know, right? Like Stellan, and then they dig in a little bit Stellan, how he feels about Elzar, and they're just very, very, small moments, but I really like what they've done, and they haven't, you know, Mully, Skolder, and yeah, Mulder and Scully. There we go.
Yep.
Haven't met up yet, but they're kind of, each of those are starting to feel their way, through their parts of the story before they link up here. But it's off to a really strong start, and I highly recommend go spend the $4 and just give this one a try, folks, and see what you think, because I think you might be hooked if you're interested in where the story might go. And DJO doesn't really disappoint very often, so I'm expecting good things.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So,
but these lyrics are messed up, man.
They really are.
They're disturbing,
and you've got a very disturbing mind there. So
yeah,
kind of behind it. All right, so we'll spend a lot more time on that here very shortly when we get to the Patreon episode and kind of break that down. But the other things that were announced, and this is the one that I felt like was kind of a big deal, but I didn't really get a chance to see if it really turned out to be a big deal in people's eyes. I think it was for me. And I'll share my screen here, but we had a couple of books that were announced just recently. And let's start with the Shadow of the Sith book, because for all the people that sat there and screamed about, where's my Luke Skywalker? Where we didn't get the stories after Return of the Jedi. This is your story. This is a story that's going to have Luke return to the forefront along with Lando. This is the missions that were. Where did they mention this? Was it in the? It wasn't in Force Awakens. I want to say it was in. It was in the Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yeah,
where Lando and Luke were on here, and there's Ocho's involved and all that stuff. So this is kind of where this is coming from. But we're going to get to see Luke Skywalker probably in his prime. I don't remember what they've said how many years after Return of the Jedi this was.
Yeah, they didn't say exactly. It's after Return of the Jedi, clearly, but it seems like it's a little ways after, because Lando has a child. And so in the excerpt on StarWars.com, so none of this is spoilers, it's all on the website. Lando has a kid, and the kid has been stolen. Of course, that kind of starts to make you think about Janna, right? But Luke is having dark side visions, and he's disturbed, and it's leading him to a place that he doesn't know what it's about, but it's called Exegol. And then they bump into Ocho of Bastoon on the way, and things like that, and calamity ensues. But so that's the kind of the core story. So we do anticipate some semblance of Luke Skywalker as we know him more in Jedi than we do in Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's going to be somewhere in there, but it should be an interesting novel. And I don't know if this is going to be the book that people, have been waiting for with Luke, because you don't really have a true villain right now. And Ocho Bastoon, for those that don't know, he's been in the Vader comic earlier this year. So he's had quite a bit of airtime on there as Vader goes to find Exegol in that timeline. And so it's a character that's getting a little bit more playtime lately. But I don't know Yeah, I'm curious what they're going to do with this one. A Luke and Lando kind of team up is an interesting one. It's not one I would have really considered until they mentioned it, Rise of Skywalker. I certainly didn't think they were going to explore this in any kind of detail, but here we go.
Yeah.
And we didn't mention the author, Adam Christopher. We have a new slate of writers actually for these books.
Yeah.
So it's not the ones we're used to. This is Adam Christopher that's going to write this one. I'm not familiar with any of these folks actually.
Yeah. No, I'm not either. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I don't know that. Yeah. And I don't want to oversell this. It's probably not going to be the Luke Skywalker battling Jedi or Sith and, full display of force powers here. But at the same time, if you're clamoring for more Luke content and story, this is where you'll probably get it here, especially since it's going to be those two. And I hope they're going to have some lighter moments because of, I'm expecting some comedic moments in this, given that Lando's involved, right?
I'm sure. So yeah, anticipated release date is in late June 2022 for that one.
It seems like forever, but it's really not.
It won't be. It's not that far away. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The next one is Brotherhood. This is by an author by the name of Mike Chen. And the summary, the quick statement is just this is an Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker relationship story predating the Clone Wars. So somewhere between the events of
this is right at the beginning of the Clone Wars, actually.
Right at the very beginning. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it picks up after Attack of the Clones. It seems. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that'd be good.
That's an interesting part of the timeline. Right when we haven't really seen much of their younger relationship in a non-Attack of the Clones type of thing, aside from Clone Wars. So this would be an interesting take on where they're at right at the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, because Clone Wars starts and he's a few years older. So yeah, right. This is kind of filling that little void there. So wow, I wasn't expecting this one at all. And then the next one we have is Star Wars Stories of Jedi and Sith. This is a collection of stories. So a number of authors, and I think there were some on here. Some of these folks, Delilah Dawson, we're familiar with her.
Right.
Alex Segura, he did the Poe Dameron book.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember. And then this was the cool thing that I was excited about. The illustrations are done by Jake Bartok, who was just I don't have his whole background, but I know he was very prominent on Twitter, making illustrations and getting retweets and likes by, people over there. And so I don't know, maybe they've signed him on permanently or whatever, but I mean, good for him that his work is out there. And we've shown his work before on the show many times when we've done some of the visual breakdowns, including when I think we threw up that one picture of all the Jedi from the High Republic. He continues to add to that. So if you ever need to see a visual guide of what all of these characters look like, go to his site or his Twitter account. He's got a website, and there's plenty of stuff out there, so you can kind of put a face to a name, if you will.
Right. Yeah. And this is a mid-grade set of stories. So expect this is your 5 to 12, I think, or 7 to 12 age range. I think that's about right.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's somewhere in there. So below young adult. And then the last one we have, and this one's due later out in 2022 as well. These are all 2022 releases, I believe. And I think they're all like in summer, late summer, early fall. And then the last one we got is Padawan, Star Wars Padawan by Kirsten White. And this is an Obi-Wan coming of age novel. This is one where he's younger and growing a bit. So this is another kind of interesting timeline. This will be in mid-July or late July. And but he's a Padawan, and this is the beginning of the relationship with Qui-Gon Jinn. And so this is when we loved Master and Apprentice, of course, but this is another opportunity for us to understand that challenge that he had. Obi-Wan wants to try really hard. We've seen this in the comics, so some of this is already established. But it'd be good to see this carry on forward in a young adult novel. This is after Dooku has left the Order.
This is going to be good stuff. Again, we were both big fans of the Master and Apprentice, mostly probably because of Claudia Gray, but
sure,
there was some good nuggets in there around the content and just that dynamic relationship between Padawan and Master, but specifically around Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. So yeah, I think the lead that seems to get buried in this one is that there is just more Qui-Gon content that we are all, always looking for and looking forward to.
Right.
So good stuff. I mean, I don't know how we're going to keep up with all this stuff, honestly, but we will definitely do our Cub Scout best.
But there you go. Yeah. 4 new novels coming in the middle of next year that are not High Republic based.
I know.
Well, and then, and I didn't even put on here in the comic world, we're getting a whole new release of Legends comics. Yeah. So I don't I'm not even sure what the hell's going on with Legends these days. It seems to have. I don't know if it's just a cash grab or if it's just a resurgence in interest or an appeasement or what.
Hmm.
But it's really interesting that we're getting we're getting a real resurgence of the Star Wars Legends material in general. We know we've got the Thrawn novels that have come out or coming out from Heir to the Empire. We know that they're doing Rogue Squadron. They've got Shatterpoint, so on and so forth. But now we're doing it in the comics, and it's pretty interesting. And some of those stories are really cool. So I'm not against this at all.
No,
And as
I'm not either.
and as
And
a
I think there's,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's enough time that's passed since these have been released that, now they've got, there's opportunities for all of these newer fans to go back and listen to this stuff, read this stuff, pick it up when, it's everything gold is new again. So,
Let me ask you a question though. As we've seen those of the Legends materials, we've seen Star Wars Visions, we have Ronin, we have all. Are they conditioning us to stop thinking about canon so much? Are you? I don't want to say. I don't see that in a cynical way, but is this a way that they're trying to break kind of the habit that everybody has of everything has to be canonical and everything?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the intent. I think some of that will probably naturally happen, right? Given so much it's come out. My thought is just simply they're not doing movies right now. And so, where are they putting their resources? Where are they putting their time resources? And so instead of paying however millions of dollars they do to put on a movie, they're just taking a very small portion of that and throwing it at authors and say, give us content, give us comic books, give us this. TV shows are, maybe cheaper to produce these days. So I think they're just using the money they would be spending normally on this stuff and really expanding that whole universe. Not to coin the term expanded universe, but I think that's probably where it's coming from. Is just there's a lot of story to be told, and we've said it many times in the show before that Star Wars is there's a certain genre there's almost all these niches now that you can just kind of pick,
Right.
right? If you want to be a prequel person, there's plenty of stuff out there. If you want to be sequel trilogy, you're screwed. If you want to be the no, I'm just kidding. If you want to be the High Republic person,
Wow, Mike.
well, there's no content. All I meant was like if you really want something from after the sequel trilogy, there's really not a whole lot. The most recent thing you've had was the Halloween holiday special, right?
True.
Beyond that, you didn't have a whole lot there. So, but no, seriously, you've got all these different things, and if you want to just stick to the original trilogy, you can just do that and kind of live in that realm. It's just gotten so big now.
Yeah, and that's part of my concern is because we've had this before. I think you and I responded on Twitter to someone, "Hey, if I'm going to jump into Star Wars in a canon, where do I start?" And of course, you and I pointed them more in the High Republic direction because it's easy, it's more accessible right now, and that's
Right.
kind of the main straight line canon that we're doing right now, right? So you can follow that story start to finish, and there's different variations of it all, but that question is going to be a more difficult one to answer here, maybe by this time next year,
Right.
depending on how much other content we have. Because I mean, it's great they're doing different Star Wars things, and they probably have tempered expectations on some of it. But I don't know. It's a really interesting proposition, and my personal feeling is I think they're trying to break the fan base a little bit away from this. It has to be canon or nothing. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I want a what if scenario. I want a what if for Star Wars, for Marvel. We've talked about that a few times. I'd love to see something like that. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm just gonna say it. We did it first, but
That's right.
we
Still
didn't do a
got
good
the
job.
logo.
But we did it first. We still got the logo.
Hey, you watch your mouth, son. Hey, and then
Okay.
and then of course we got one last piece of news. They did start filming Mandalorian, I think this week. Season 3.
Yeah.
They finally wrapped up Book of Boba, and now they're able to roll in and start doing Mandalorian. So, yeah,
I
supposedly,
saw Carl Weathers had posted that, or had mentioned that he had started filming yesterday. I think was the day, the 12th or something.
yeah. So exciting news that ball is rolling. Although I got to be honest with you, I don't think we're going to see Mandalorian released until fall next year.
It'll be a while.
It's a long ways away.
Yeah, I mean, you figure they're just now recording. Unless they're going to wrap up some really aggressive schedule, they've still got all their post production work to do.
Right.
There's some lead time on that alone.
Yep.
So, but it'll get here. I think we've got enough content to keep us busy until then, and who knows? Maybe they'll stretch Boba out for quite a while.
Like
so.
a Stretch
Yeah,
Armstrong.
exactly. No, put him in a stretcher. Okay, well, let's get to our main topic. We wanted to kind of wrap up the Star Wars Visions stories, and we'll start with the Lop and Ocho. I'll read the first one here, and then you can pick up the next one here. But the little summary says, a powerful patriarch clashes with his eldest daughter about confronting the encroaching empire. The adopted little sister, who is caught in the middle, must choose sides. And it is a gross oversimplification of what's happening in the story. But, okay, so first off, before we get into the story itself, first impressions for you. What did you think about the anime style, the characters, voice acting, music, all that stuff?
Yeah, for just Lop and Ocho or for all of them?
Yeah, no, Lop and Ocho.
Lop and Ocho. This one, it began with a bit of the over-the-top, typical anime, you know, the father yelling at the oldest daughter and things like that. But it settled into a rhythm, and I actually really enjoyed this one quite a bit. The villain, again, was very much like we had in The Village Bride. It was very reminiscent of that same type of villain. In my opinion, very traditional anime style villain that, you know, the huge grin, just teeth for days, and, you know, almost dressed like the Joker, almost like Joker-like makeup and whatnot for the Empire. But the dialogue and stuff I thought was pretty all right. I liked this idea, and we're seeing a bit of a theme on some of these where, you know, the Empire comes in, they've destroyed all the natural resources, and now they want to reclaim their planet. It's kind of the same story that we hear for the Empire, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a continuation of that. And the visuals on this one actually reminded me a lot of Rogue One with Jeddah, right? With the Star Destroyer just, you know, kind of parked right on top of the city. They had some sort of connecting tube to it, or something like that. But yeah, it was. But overall, I was surprised I liked this one. It was a passing down of the lightsaber. I thought the lightsaber was pretty cool. The fight scene between Lop and Ocho was actually really good. But again, the complaint that we're going to have throughout this episode, but as we've had with the other one, or criticism, I guess, is that it just kind of ends abruptly. You're plopped down in it. And I think that was actually okay. But then it just kind of ends, you know, and we don't really have any kind of resolution or conclusion to all of this. And I think that's the part they leave a nice opportunity for later on. But it's this trend of none of them feel finished, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. There is they certainly left a lot of stuff unresolved.
Right.
And opportunity there to pick it up should they want to. I actually did like the story. I wasn't like crazy about it. But it was good. It was just wasn't like, it didn't blow me away kind of thing. The animation was fine. It's not my favorite style of animation.
Right.
There's definitely a look. And again, we're not experts when it comes to, I've seen some other people talking about it, and they're clearly in their realm when they're talking about the styles, and they're quoting different animators and the way they I was trying to think of the word, but the styles that they use, the techniques that they use for some of they've got names for all this stuff. I don't have any of that stuff.
Right.
I can just tell you when I look at it, I'm like, no, I don't like that kind. I like this kind, but I don't like that kind. But from a story perspective, yeah, I thought it was all right. I mean, it was, you got there was something there, that whole storyline of, what is a family, right? It's just the people that you surround yourself with. That is that runs through all of Star Wars. And we've talked about many situations, many characters where that's come to play, including somebody like Rey or somebody like Ezra, or, take your pick. There's tons and tons of characters in Star Wars when that holds true. As far as the voice acting, I was surprised that, I can't remember that there was anybody on here that I remember being like anybody that stood out, at least from the voice actors on this one.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah. And not to say that they haven't done anything. They obviously have done probably a lot of things. I looked them up, and they've been pretty big and done quite a bit. But where would you say this takes place? Like, I mean, we've been kind of playing with that question of where would you throw this in, where would you drop a pin in the timeline for this one to take place if you had to?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is probably, I would imagine this is after Order 66, before A New Hope, I think. Because this one took place over a 7-year period, so I think it definitely falls in that realm somewhere. So I'm guessing before A New Hope. some number of years. So maybe, even before Rebels, a little bit, somewhere in
Yeah.
that neighborhood. So maybe we'll call it 10 or 15 years after Revenge of the Sith. Again,
Yeah,
it
that's probably
seems like it's early on, a little bit at the beginning. Everybody thinks the Empire is okay, so maybe it's a little further up in that timeline.
yeah, yeah. The way this started was very interesting. Like I can't remember if any of the other ones now had a voiceover to kind of get you up to speed, but there was almost a message there of, industrialization is bad and the
Right.
empire is all about industrialization,
Yeah.
and that kind of teed it off. I don't know that we needed that, and
It
it's
was a
fine.
little
I mean,
heavy-handed. Yeah.
yeah, right. We certainly get it. We understand it, and I think when you mentioned earlier about the Empire stripping resources and all of that, that takes me back to the Ahsoka novel and seeing what the Empire was doing there. That was kind of a main theme of that novel
Right.
as well. But yeah, so we get this character named Lop. She's a rabbit, a bunny. I don't know. Again, this is the weird stuff for me, but I will say,
on her little display thing, it's a carrot. There's a carrot drawn on it.
is it really?
Yeah, on
No,
her
I didn't
little
see that.
biz advisor thing. I just noticed that today. I was like, wow, that's adorable.
So there's a part of me that's like, okay, I don't like this anime and I don't like rabbits in my stories, but then I like Jackson. So I mean, I'm kind of conflicted because
You can't be a hypocrite, dude.
I know I
gotta-
can't be a hypocrite.
gotta
But
make
they look totally different. They act totally different. I don't know. It didn't
Just like
for
Locke,
me,
you
it was-
got to make a choice.
Yes.
Choose a side.
Well, see, and I have so here's my dumb, ignorant question about it, and I'm gonna put myself out there, and feel free to throw darts at me. But why a rabbit? Like, I don't understand that. Is it just like an alien race, like any other alien race? Why wouldn't they erase unless it was whatever Jackson is, and I forget what he is now? Why wouldn't they just use another human or any other, like a Twi'lek or something that we're familiar with, like more
I think it gives
front and center?
it gives that stark difference, right? And
Is it just the cuteness factor? Like
maybe a little bit, but I think some of it was also it's a stark difference between what is family and what's not family. And because someone is that different, they could be your family all along, but you don't treat them the same way. And the father is very much like that. He's like, I might have looked down on you. I didn't mean to, but I might have, because you're not family and you are clearly different from the family. It's very easy to identify you as not part of this clan, right? Even though she feels like she is, and this place feels like her home. But I think that visual difference, I think, helps cement that as to why this discord is in the family of how they view Lop.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. I get that. It's clearly somebody very different looking than
Right.
them. It just looks like Chef Chris is saying, looks like Bugs Bunny or Babs Bunny or whatever her name was.
Babs, yeah.
Yeah. So Lop is a former. Well, when this episode starts, I guess she was a slave laborer. She had a collar around her neck that was put there by the Empire. She was kind of stealing food, right? Trying to make, do whatever she can. And they catch her stealing food and they're like, oh, you're a thief? Great. Come join our family, which I thought was kind of weird, but I get it. It's part of the story. And they take her kind of in, and then we fast forward. Oh, before we go any further, we got a Dank Ferrick in this one.
Oh, did we?
Yeah. Yasaboro, the dad.
Yeah.
When he's like telling her not to go out there or whatever. Yeah. He says, Dank Ferrick, blah, 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 blah. And then that's when they're out on the beach. Before she says, we can be a family.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew he yelled something, but I didn't pay attention to what it was.
Yeah, it was a Dank Ferrick. But yeah, this all happens very fast. Like, they just take her in like immediately, and they're a family. And so we fast forward 7 years, and now we've got kind of a wedge kind of between the family. You've got Ocho, who is it Ocho?
Yeah, Ocho.
Okay. Because that's 8 in Spanish, if you didn't know. But I was thinking about her name, Ocho. But you've got Ocho, who is, pro Empire now, right? She sees the benefits, or she's bought into the propaganda of growth and prosperity, and look at all the things the Empire provides, but turn a blind eye to everything that they take away. And you've got the father, who really hasn't changed positions, right? It seems like he was kind of anti-Empire for stripping their world of their resources and, taking foothold there and kind of, just forcing themselves and forcing their whole agenda on this poor planet. In fact, enslaving half of the people as well, right? All for, quote, the benefit of the planet. He's definitely anti-Empire at this point. So it was a very interesting dynamic to have those two characters that were of blood at odds. And then you've got Ocho, who's kind of in the middle, right?
Lop. Yep.
Lop, sorry. Yep. I'll get
Oh,
these names right tonight.
I do it in my head all the time. It just doesn't come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think with Ocho, I sense desperation though when they're arguing with her father. She has, or even when she's talking with Lop in the speeder, it just seems like she's desperate. She knows things are bad, and she's trying to. We've seen this time and time again. We see it with the Empire all the time. People are like, I don't have a better option, so I'm going to go with the Empire. The Republic didn't do, squat for me. So why would I, why would I trust the Empire? And then others are like, well, the Empire is actually doing something where the Republic didn't. They ignored us. And now they're here and they're giving us these opportunities, even though they're, destroying the planet in the process because they don't really care what happens as a result. But so I sense more desperation in some of that than I did real indoctrination into what they were doing, to where she felt like she didn't have much of a choice but to do this because what other options were there?
Yeah. Well, she's definitely seemed all in. I mean, she even I
Well,
had a quote here.
at the end, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, well, she says what they're providing, or what the father says, what they're providing isn't support. It's a diplomatic way of saying they're taking over.
right.
Which I thought was like, well, that's a great way of talking about the Empire. We've never heard it in those terms before. And Ocho is coming from it's almost like she's coming from a place of I'm actually trying to look out for the family, right? I mean, that keeps coming up.
She's trying to save it, yeah.
Yeah, she's trying to save the family, which seems like her intentions are good. However, the way she's going about it, and certainly joining the Empire, and even almost abandoning her family to some extent, right? Because she cuts off her hair, and what was the other thing she did that was kind of like dramatic?
Um,
Was it the blood on the eyes? Was
oh
that the
yeah,
one that
yeah.
she
She
did?
bit her thumb and did
What
the
was?
little.
Yeah, what's going on there? Like
Well,
another.
so it was the same. The Imperial guy had a similar little effect on the corner of
Did
his,
he?
but they were a different
All right.
color.
Hmm.
So I don't know if she was mimicking that. I didn't know what that represented, or maybe that was what you do as a coming of age. And she was saying that I've broken free from the family now. I'm
Right.
I'm
Right.
now a woman, or I'm now liberated from, as the really the matriarch of the family. She's the heir.
Mhm.
But and she's also upset that they've lost their influence, they've lost their power, and so there's a bit of selfishness there that she wants to restore the name of the family that she feels her father has done some damage to by resisting what the empire has been doing. And so but you're right, she does it all. I think she thinks she's trying to do the right thing, but every step that she takes that continues to draw her down that path is just really she's already really sloping down the slope. She's tumbling. She's not sliding. She's just totally
Yeah.
tumbling. And by the end of this episode, she's all in and she's pissed. And I don't know how she survived the fight. To be honest with you, that's some miracle stuff right there. But because she got
Yeah.
a nice big old slash across her chest in an X form.
Yep. Yeah. So so she does end up going into the Empire. She dons the whole Imperial robe or officer outfit.
She looked cool
thing.
though. That
She
character
did look like
design
a
was
cool character,
great in
yeah.
the white admiral outfits. Yeah,
I did like that. I've always liked that Admiral outfit. By
it's
the way.
sharp. Yeah,
I mean, that's part of the appeal for Thrawn, really.
yeah. Especially if you have a cape.
Yeah.
Gotta have a cape.
You gotta have a cape, right?
That's right.
Okay, so the father then goes and takes Lop.
Yeah, that's how you remember it though.
Yeah, Lop, and gives her the family heirloom, right? This is the sword, the lightsaber, and we saw this in the trailer when it was first released and all that. But it's interesting because he very clearly states that your family, like there's no different. He doesn't see anything different about her other than she looks like a rabbit. But apart from that, it's his daughter. He treats him the same way. He talks about him as though they're both his daughters, and so he gives her that lightsaber and says, "Go kill your sister," or something. I guess go stop your sister. I think is what he was trying to say. And so, he gives her the lightsaber, and then he heads out. Right, he heads out over to go try to stop her. There's a war that breaks out. There's that daddy-daughter fight. They kind of fight it out there for a little bit. What do you think of that battle? I know we've been talking a lot about the battles themselves, but all these have been pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. I liked the weapon that Ocho had. It was kind of like a triangular. I don't know what they're called. It reminded me of what?
Michelangelo?
Well, I mean, yeah, like it was like nunchuckish, but actually,
Oh yeah.
it reminded me of the villain in in Temple of or Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a little triangle and ends up being a coat rack.
Yeah.
It's what it reminded me of, except much larger and much more electricityized. It's a word.
Electricityized?
Yeah.
Sure.
But I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was clear that he wasn't wanting to fight her. The father was written a bit inconsistently in this episode. It was very rushed. It was very rushed. So I think this fight kind of felt more of the same in that regard, where they're trying to have this philosophical debate of sorts, right? Of what is best for the family, and and along those lines. But at the same time, he doesn't want to fight her. But why did you go blow stuff up, dude? You knew what was going to happen, and maybe he just feels like it was all inevitable anyway.
Yeah. Lop ends up heading out there and shows up right as right as he takes it one to the eye, and now he's blind. This poor guy, didn't he only have like one eye? Now he's got like no eyes.
Yeah, she took his only good eye. But at least he had a good sense of humor about it. He laughed.
Yeah, he did laugh. Yeah, and I think it's so. It's again. So Ocho tells her dad, "I'll do what I must to protect their home, right? I protect our home." So again, it's all coming from a good place. I think by the very end, though, she's been converted, right? I think she's kind of lost to some extent, but we'll come to that here in a little bit. And then this is where Ocho now believes that Lop isn't part of the family. Like up until now, right, it was weird. Like at the very beginning, she was the one that was like, "Oh, we'll be a happy family. We'll be a happy family." And then now it's like she's not even part of this family. Why did she get the lightsaber, right? And so clearly she's gone to the dark side or lost her, mind here. She blocks. This is where Ocho blocks the attack coming from Lop, and then they get into this whole kind of a fight. And poor TD, this little robot, man, like the droid didn't even have to wasn't really a part of the story. I mean, he had like, some pretty good moments there with the whole, hologram, and the way it ended, I thought was pretty powerful. Like I really enjoyed that the last thing that, was still running was that image of them on the beach. And,
right.
Wow, they've really kind of come a long way since then. But yeah, eventually she gets the two X's, one with the lightsaber, one with that, it looked like a sai or some sort.
Yeah.
Right on her chest there from Lop. And she falls down, but then she pulls a Darth Vader and is landed on the TIE fighter that she rides away, standing on, which is good. These are all, this is all stuff that we've seen in Star Wars, believe it or not. This isn't like crazy anime stuff. Go back to, Rebels and you'll see that. But yeah, I'm with you. Like the way it ends is just like, whoa, okay, this is cool. There's a lot going on here. Like I said, I actually enjoyed the storyline. I had some problems with the anime itself and the fact that she looks like a rabbit. But other than that, I thought this was a good story. I actually enjoyed it, and I'd want to see more of this. I don't know what medium I'd like to see it in. I'd watch this again if it was, a part 2 or a series or something. But what did you think about the way it ended there?
Yeah, it was abrupt, but again, it was an enjoyable episode. I liked it, and it felt like it actually was going somewhere. It was telling you a bit of a story. It didn't end so abruptly that it felt like you're like, I don't even know what happened here, and and you're just confused. So it was very much a cliffhanger. Look, watch out for part 2. But it was I like that Lop started using some force abilities. I thought that was kind of cool to see, because really she wasn't exhibiting any of that stuff. I mean, clearly she was making huge jumps and flipping a speeder over and all that good stuff, but to actually see her use the force with the sai and grab her father's weapon, I liked that moment as well.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And that whole sequence I thought was really good there at the end. But yeah, it was overall, again, enjoyable episode. It was probably a little towards the middle bottom for me when you compare all of them together. But I think overall, still, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, no, me too. I was not looking forward to it, but it was okay. I liked it. It was good. I'd rather see. I want to see more of it. So, okay, let's get to the second one we're going to talk about, and these are out of order, so we're not going 1 through 9 or anything like that. But Akakidi, you want to kick us off and read the short summary there?
Sure. A Jedi returns to his old forbidden love to help defend her kingdom from a Sith-like shogun. Plagued by haunting visions, the Jedi learns his destiny might not be what he thought it was.
That sounds really, really familiar, right? So before we get into the storyline itself, man, the music was what the heck? I couldn't take it. Like I I did not like the music at all. Like it just was so off-putting. It would come on. It was like, doo, 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 like I don't even know what it was. Like
all the drum. Yeah, it was like
yeah,
the bongo type of sound. Yeah,
yeah, it was like a bongo that was happening.
Yeah, exactly what it sounded like.
It was so off-putting, and I mean, it had music can change. Just turn off all the music, right? Go watch John Williams. Turn off John Williams stuff in Star Wars, and you don't get the same effect, right? Music does make a difference, and for me, this was like the anti of that, right? It was just, it kept pulling me out. Like it was like, oh, it was cringy. I hate to use that word. No one uses that word, but I'm old, so.
But you're right.
Anymore.
It was very in your face. You noticed it, and you noticed it because it kept happening, and it never went away, and it was loud. It was actually quite loud. And the percussion was very sharp too. So you couldn't not be aware of it. And music should give you the emotion. It shouldn't necessarily say, oh my God, I'm listening to this powerful soundtrack. And it shouldn't give you that. It should be, wow, what I'm seeing on the screen is really, really powerful. And you don't even know that the music is having that type of effect on you. Yeah. And this is the other side of that, right?
So the only thing I'll say again in defense of it is I may be missing something here, right? There may be some cultural, that sound may have roots somewhere, and it may be, I don't know, maybe there's a top 40 for that stuff. I have no idea in Japan, right? I'll claim complete ignorance there, or and that's the only thing. I would chalk it up to maybe a cultural thing, but for me, it was just too much, and it felt like some of the most inopportune times. Like he would come on, you're like, why are you're ruining the moment with, Matthew McConaughey with a bongo drum, right? It just you don't need to have that on right now. So I don't know.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anybody who's curious, go look up Matthew McConaughey with a bongo.
With the bongo.
Yeah. It was, I liked it. So I liked the drum. I thought it was really unique, and I thought it was cool for a while. But you're right. It didn't seem like it was always appropriate, the style of what they were doing with the scene that we were watching. And I think that was the disconnect for me. And I'm kind of hearing some of the same thing from you there. It's just, it would just pull you out of it. And but again, the music itself, I thought was interesting and very, very different, very unique. And
very unique.
Right.
Yes.
And again, I like that. I like that dynamic. There we go. Yeah, that dynamism between different things. And I think it was really cool to have something so unique and different. But it's still, yeah. Again, I'm curious if someone could help us understand if there was something else behind the music and what the significance of it was, maybe. And so if anybody's aware of that, please. Yes, I'm making up all sorts of words tonight. Dynamism, yes. I'm going to start making up some vowels here, or vowels, gosh, verbs. It's going to be one of those nights.
We're a little off on our game tonight. It's late.
So what'd you think about this episode overall, though?
Okay, so here's my good feedback, or what I enjoyed about it. So when I first watched this episode, when it first came out, couldn't stand it. Like I didn't care about it at all. And then I thought, okay, well, it's been a while. And in fact, I think I had watched all of the other episodes at least 2 or 3 times, just watching them because they're not very long. And then in addition to that, preparation for the shows, right? So you're talking about 4 or 5 times. This is still the one episode where I had not seen it, but that very first time. It wasn't until it wasn't this weekend, Friday, that I got one viewing in. I got another viewing in on Monday, and then I watched it a couple of times yesterday. And I actually really like this storyline. And then, however, the storyline is not unique. I mean, this is like lifted. I mean, this is like almost gutted right out of Revenge of the Sith in a lot of different ways. And not to say that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, all of these shows have kind of pulled different things from different movies and all of that. But here's the one only other critique that I would have of it is it was very fast. Like they were throwing, there was, when you first watch it the first 2 or 3 times, it's hard to almost keep up with what's going on. Like there's not a lot of context in there. You don't really understand the nuances, and they make one reference to one quick line and they cut away, and next thing you know, they're fighting. It didn't dawn on me until like the second or third viewing that they were trying to get to the palace, and I missed the whole line about your dad being killed. So I didn't understand what had happened there. And then it's weird because they give you they give you more information a little bit later in the storyline. They kind of flash back. So it's not until you've seen this 2 or 3 times that it finally just you kind of get the complete story of it. And once I had that, and once I understood that this was essentially Anakin and Padme, I was all in on it. I actually really enjoyed this episode, and I've liked it a lot more. And by the way, I want your thoughts as well. But the Akakidi translates into red fog. I went and looked it up just to make sure.
Okay.
It has to mean something, but it means red fog, which is something that comes to play at the very end of this episode. But what did you think in terms of the storyline itself?
So I liked the storyline. I like what they were doing with it. I liked kind of how it went. I like that we actually got to see the conclusion of it, and it's kind of like you were saying with Anakin and Padme. What if Anakin would have been successful?
Mhm.
Right? It is basically what this ended up being, and so I thought it was
What
really
if?
interesting. It doesn't change anything. You still don't get the girl in the end, and that's exactly what happened. And now he's a slave to his master because, yeah, they did the thing, and they were able to resurrect. I can't remember her name, but they were to resurrect the
Lady
princess.
Misa.
Yeah,
Misa.
Misa. There you go. So they were able to accomplish the goal. But this episode, it just really, for as much setup as there was of them going to the palace, the actual palace scenes were just very bang, 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 bang. And to where the villain was a bit disappointing in that way that it wasn't very developed at all. And he was having, force visions and that type of thing. And I thought that was actually kind of cool. You had an idea what was coming. It wasn't any surprises, but it overall just felt short for me. I really liked the story aspect of it. I like what they were doing. I liked some of the visuals we got as well. But it just really, it just didn't all click. I think is maybe what I'm trying to say. It had all the things that would work, and it did pretty well. But at the end of the day, you're like, okay. It's like when you leave the movie, you're like, you know what? I think I liked it, but I don't know if I liked it. But I'm pretty sure I liked it. But I don't know if I want to go watch it again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this one for me, this was probably towards the bottom of my list of ones I preferred throughout the 9 episodes. But the storyline and the way they did it, though, I am a big fan of that. It just didn't quite hit all the notes for me
Hmm.
for me to enjoy it as much.
Yeah, and for anybody that I don't know hasn't seen it or didn't care for it or turned it off or whatever, we've been talking about the parallels. Essentially, you've got this Jedi who had spent some time on this planet. Was it 5 years prior to? Uh, Presumably fell in love or had an affair. I don't know. Did something with this Princess Misa, and after her father died, the his sister, which would be her aunt, came in and took over as the heir to the throne, and she's a Sith Lord. So he finds out about her father. The Jedi finds out about her father's death. He heads out to the planet, meets up with her. Things have changed drastically. She's no longer in power. She's been in exile. She's carrying a bow, which he makes a comment about. Like why is she carrying a bow?
That was a
They've got
princess
these.
need with a bow.
Yeah, exactly. They've got these two hirelings that they've got that are helping them get to the palace so that they can confront her aunt and kill her. Is basically what's going on. So he, you know, jumps in and tries to help out as well. And so the other parallels here is he's having these visions of death. Like he sees her death. He doesn't know it's her. And he's being haunted by this the entire time, which is a little different, right? I mean,
Right.
Anakin could tell that was Padme, and he was seeing that all very clearly. But that was kind of the big twist at the very end. Falling in love with the princess. He kills her essentially in a rage, right?
He was in the
at the
red fog. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the red fog at the very end when he woke up and started slashing all these guards, and then attacks her, who she'd been taken prisoner, and she had a mask on, and so that was the mask he was seeing in his vision. Didn't know it was her that was going to be wearing the mask, and so he slashes her and kills her. And then again, another parallel. Obviously, he turns to the dark side. I've got this shot behind me that you really can't see, so I apologize for my big head, but there's he's kind of kneeling down and he pledges his allegiance to
Yeah.
the Sith Lord there.
He went straight to master. I think that was where it started to lose me a little bit.
Hmm.
It was like, oh, okay, you're just gonna go ahead and give up, I guess.
Yeah, I mean he did.
Yeah.
He does, and he does. When she comes back to life. Well, let's talk about that because this seemed pretty easy to just bring somebody back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this seems like the one thing that Palpatine wanted so bad. They just very easily did. They kind of held hands, him, and what was his name? We keep saying him, but Tsubaki.
Yeah, Tsubaki. Yeah.
Yeah, Tsubaki and the aunt, who was Misoga or Misaga?
Yeah, I couldn't.
Misaga?
I didn't. I
Misago?
didn't want to butcher it.
Sure. But they simply they hold hands and then they touch her corpse, and just like that, you saw like there's like a red mist that comes out of there, maybe a red fog, if you will,
All right.
that comes up, and she just pops right back up, and she's alive again. And he walks off. And when she asks him, what did you do? He said, I did what had to be done, which echoes the line that we get from the Emperor: "Do what must be done." So I
Right.
mean, there's just little things like that were pulled just right out of Revenge of the Sith. But I mean, for the most part, it's a very straightforward story. It's just the way it's kind of put together is kind of weird. And you really kind of have to watch it a couple times before you understand what's really going on here. But yeah, I mean, he walks off into the sunset with this Sith Lord he's pledged allegiance to at this point, and she's alive, but he's not in any better position. And so, no, I hate to just say that's the end of the story, but that essentially is the end of the story.
Yeah.
Is this one that you'd want to see more of, and how?
Maybe. I guess maybe because it really did feel like an incomplete story. You're right. We kind of got dropped in. If you didn't read it on Disney Plus, like the little excerpt, like we just read y'all, you wouldn't know that they were in love. I mean, you could probably get an idea that they were close, but the forbidden type of love. So again, you're kind of dropped in a bit, and then if you're towards the end, it just kind of abruptly finishes. And again, it's like, okay, could we get a little bit more? Because it just was this very quick turn to the dark side. It was like, bam, done. And he was meeting with his master, before he left, and they had, they were already worried about the dark side and whatnot. So it was just, yeah, it was just it just happened too fast. There wasn't enough setup. There wasn't enough exposition, I think, to really grab you into this episode. But I would like to see if they were to do more of it, what that would look like. So it's kind of one of those interesting things where, yeah, I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would, but I'd still want to see where they go with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you too. There's very few, with the exception, well, you know which one I don't want to see more of.
Right.
But there are very few.
Tatooine Rhapsody Part 2.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see that. But I think there are very few on here that I would say, no, I don't want to see those. Not to get ahead of ourselves, because I kind of want to wrap up with, what we would expect maybe in Visions 2 or season 2, which will happen, I promise you. But yeah, there are very few of these that I wouldn't want to see again. I don't know that they're going to do that. My gut tells me they're going to just have all new type episodes. Maybe they take one or two and continue the story on, but for the most part, I think we're going to see a lot of new content when that eventually does happen. So.
Yeah, I think the majority of it will be new.
There was one.
We might get a couple though that kind of come back.
Yeah,
they've set too many of them up. I mean, that's the thing. Now they got to go cherry pick which ones they would do, unless you really want to do 6 out of the 9 that have really loose ends to tie up.
Oh, wait, hold that thought, because I want to come back to that here when we wrap up. Okay, let's get to the final one, which was one of the ones I think we had called out as being one of our favorites. It certainly is one of mine.
Yeah.
And that's the Elder. So a pacifist Jedi and his restless Padawan pursue a dark presence to a small village on an outer rim planet. The Jedi and Padawan uncover a terrifying truth and must face down an old man who is far more powerful than they had ever imagined. I see what you did there. That's Jonesy's wording, by the way. So this one,
that's Disney Plus's.
Oh, it's Disney's word. Okay. I thought you wrote these. I was so impressed. I was like, wow, these are great, Jonesy. You copy and pasted these.
Yeah, I did. Well, I couldn't copy. I had to type them as I read them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you put the effort in. You put the work.
I did. Someone had to put some
appreciate
effort
that.
in the show notes this week.
Yeah. In the show in general. About time.
Well, let's not get crazy.
Okay. So for this one, I liked everything about this. And David Harbour is the one that does the voice for. So they never say his name in the episode, but in the credits, he's listed as Tyjin Crosser, which I thought was an interesting name. But David Harbour, who's probably right now most well known for Stranger Things, he was also the Russian Captain America in Black Widow. But he did this voice, and it's a very like Qui-Gon Jinn-ish character, and very calm. I mean, almost to like. And I want to ask you like where this fits in, right? Oh, we didn't talk about that in the last one. Where would you pin that one? Sorry, where would you pin that one on the timeline?
I don't think there's nothing that fits.
It's just one of the ones that's out there.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Out there in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Enough of that. All right. So getting back to the Elder. Yeah, so David Harbour's performance in this I thought was really good.
Yeah.
It was a little off-putting because he was just so mellow. Like I don't know that we've ever seen a Jedi this calm and this you know, you said a pacifist, or it said a pacifist. Um, it was very different. That demeanor was very different. Even Qui-Gon had moments in there like that where he was not like that, but this was very just deadpan throughout the entire episode, which did turn me off at first, but I actually did come to like it. I liked all the visuals of this. The animation styles were great. I liked the fight scenes. The music was okay. I mean, it didn't stick out like,
Right.
you know, the last one, Akakiri, but it wasn't just, you know, it wasn't something that was,
It was largely very quiet. Yeah.
yeah, very subtle in the background kind of stuff. But yeah, and then obviously the story I thought was wonderful. I really enjoyed this one, and if I had to put a pin in this one it was the only one that really felt like it could have been like a High Republic kind of story
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I
didn't
mean?
really thought
Because
about that.
no Sith. You've got people patrolling the Outer Rim, and we know that's a pretty big thread that's running through the High Republic right now, where they're out there, you know, doing that kind of thing and doing patrols. I think that's what they mentioned. They were on a patrol out in the Outer Rim at this time. So
Right.
for me, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. This could be the High Republic story. But what did you think about the overall story itself, or the overall the visuals, sound, all that, and then you can take us right into the story itself.
Yeah, I think overall I really enjoyed this one. I think what the only thing that didn't hit the mark was you didn't really get enough about the elder to understand what was really going on. He gives you a little bit of exposition, but not a whole lot. That was
Mhm.
about the only disappointing part. I'm with you, man. David Arbor, I could just listen to that voice all day long. It was just very soothing and very. It was a little off-putting. It was almost too flat at
Mhm.
sometimes. But overall, I just liked it really the way that they designed the character and you got the visual of the character. It worked. It worked really, really well with the voice
Yep.
because
Yes.
he was always just you didn't you saw him maybe smirk a little bit, but he really didn't have any kind of any expression. So it would very much, it very much fit they were very much married together and it worked really, really well. I thought the elder voice was a lot of fun too, especially when he gets super excited at the end that, finally he has a match and he's like, I wish I would have met you when I was stronger, and type of thing.
That was James Hong,
Yeah.
who is Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China and a ton of other movies. Blade Runner, he's huge in the '80s, but yeah, I mean that guy's amazing. That
Yep.
he's still even around doing work. That was so great to hear. I mean, he's got a very distinct voice. You hear it and you know exactly who that person is, which is awesome.
Right. And so that it just made that fun, and this is an episode it kept moving and it actually had a conclusion. And I mean the interesting part about it is like they're just kind of left wondering, because at
Hmm.
the end, the Sith destroys all evidence of his existence. And we need to talk about the end there because that was quite interesting what happened. But
Yeah,
yeah, so yeah, quick recap for folks. So Dan and his master, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Taijin, you said.
Taijin. Yeah,
Yeah, Taijin. So they're on patrol, and apparently he's a very seasoned master. He's been to more planets than everybody in the history of ever. But he senses a disturbance in the Force, and they're near an outer rim planet that he's been to a few times, and so they go down to investigate. So Dan, they end up splitting up at one point. So the locals identified a ship. This elder man went to the mountains. They don't feel anything though. They're not feeling anything, and so Taijin understands that for if the elder is that person, then he has felt them, and so he's already getting concerned because if they can't feel him, they know that then he knows that they're there.
hmm,
And so they split up. The master goes to the ship. The Padawan goes to investigate the mountain. And Dan is one of those characters, kind of like Anakin, where he's seeking excitement, right? He's looking for adventure. He wants to pull out the lightsaber and he even says it. So if I encounter this beast, its lightsaber's out, right? You
yeah.
know,
Like can't wait to. He's just itching to pull that thing out.
he really is. And of course, his master's trying to teach him patience and everything. And they have kind of a fun bantering of kind of back and forth, which I thought was nice on the ship. I liked that a bit.
Yeah.
So of course, Dan is the one that runs into the elder, and they have a very swift fight. The elder is a bit disappointed because he's just looking for a challenge. He's looking for someone that can just satisfy that need, that urge to kill and to dominate someone, and just feel like he's bested someone. And some of that we learned from the article with the producers a few weeks back, or I guess it was probably closer to a month or more back. than we did from the episode. But it really helped. That article really did help give us some context to some of that. But of course, Dan is no match for the Elder. He quickly dispatches him, but he also knows, he's like, if I kill you, then I will get your master, and your master is the one I really want. And Taisha, man, it was a really cool fight. It starts raining, of course. So you get the smoke on the lightsabers. It was
good stuff.
The visuals were great. Of course, he's got two. The Sith has got two red blades, and we just get the one green one from the Jedi. And the fighting styles were really cool because he like launched into like almost like a backhanded one-hand attack. Taisha did on that initial stroke, which I thought was just interesting. So it was a different fight, but he was very calm. And at the very end, though, and this is what we did for the show art this week, the Sith is getting a bit frustrated, and so he decides to call on the Sith lightning, of course. And while he's doing that, he's got his blade ready to strike, but Dan throws his lightsaber, or with the Force throws it, and distracts the Elder, so he knocks it down. And Stephanie actually, she texted me with this, like, finally someone did it. Someone finally did it. Where Taijin turns off his lightsaber, sticks it in his chest, and turns it on, and just stabs him right through the chest. Because she's always been like, why don't people just stop, like when they're clashed together and stuck? Why don't one of them turn it off and then just go around and stab him? I'm like, well, that's less exciting.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I was right. It was less exciting. It was kind of a disappointing finish.
Right.
He's got a hole in his chest,
Yeah. I actually had a question in my show notes that said, what did you think about the Elder's death for that exact reason? And we saw this in, was it the Last Jedi, where she throws him the lightsaber and he takes it, catches it, ignites it, and it goes to the guard's eye.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, this is, it was a very interesting way for that character to go and to die. So, but yeah, I think so. All of like this story was just great beginning to end. There were some really great moments in here. Not just to kind of, we can get into some of this stuff here. I want to get into the Elder himself, though. He says he's not a Sith, right? And we know he once was. The Sith are now extinct.
Tore themselves apart. Yeah.
Did you feel like really was the only thing that this guy wanted was just a fair fight? Like, do you feel like he was at the point where he just wanted to, have one last go and feel that again, feel whatever that is again for him to be able to fight somebody that's of equal power? Or was there something more that he was in? It's like, why did he pick this particular planet to land on? Right? Did he know these guys are going to be there? And some of these are rhetorical, right? I don't know that we have answers, but any thoughts around some of that stuff?
Well, I think he was with the Sith. I think he left because he gives us a bit of an idea that he got tired of their infighting. They were tearing each other apart. It sounds like he was never really really was sold on the ideology of things. And you were asking about when does this take place, and I think you're right. This is a pre-High Republic type. I mean, the lightsabers look more modern. They look a bit more, prequel trilogy type of era. But at the same time, this very much could have been predating High Republic too, right? Because again, Sith have been gone for a long time, and because they don't even believe that he could be Sith, because the Master Taishan was like, no, they've been gone for hundreds of years at this point. But I think that it really was that. It was kind of that last hurrah. Time is, and that was kind of the lesson of the episode, right? Is that the one thing you can never defeat is going to be time. Time will always you will grow stronger, and then you will grow weaker, and then you'll die. You'll fade away, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that was definitely the lesson of it all, and that Dan needed to learn, and somehow he survived his wounds. But I don't think he was Sith by this point. I think he was just out there for his jollies at that point. Really, he just wants to have a challenge. And I thought that was very evident on his face, where he got super excited just that someone might actually challenge him for once.
He had an interesting technique where when he had summoned the ball lightning, he actually used that to block the Elder's or the Master's lightsaber. And that I hadn't seen that before. Not that I can recall anyways. He was kind of, I think you got,
was it?
I don't know if that's the image. Yeah.
I thought he was blocking the lightning oh no, he dodged the lightning. Oh yeah, you're right. He did. I didn't.
He holds it up and stops the lightsaber with it. Almost like I don't know. It's interesting. It was a cool concept. Again, this is the stuff that I like that Visions did. They just gave us new ways of looking at the Force and Force powers and things that are kind of some of this is grounded in just Japanese culture and myth and legend and story and that sort of thing, which is all great stuff because that's essentially where all of this originally came from. So it's just, completing the circle. The message was interesting too. I wrote "There's always a bigger fish" because it's kind of the same thing. And the other one I had on here was "Circle of Life" from Lion King. But
All right,
but yeah, I mean, it is that story. The lesson in all of this was that someday you're going to be more powerful than me. And he's like, "Really? You think I'll be as powerful as you?" And he's like, "Well, maybe." I was like, "Well, that's not a lot of confidence from the master."
I liked
there.
it though. You got to keep him in check. He's got some confidence there behind him.
Yeah, I thought that was funny though. He's like, "Yeah, maybe." After he tells him that,
I love that
you'll
dry
do that.
sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very stoic throughout all of it, like I said, and I did enjoy that. I actually liked it more. His ship was an interesting design, by the way.
Yeah, it looked more like a freighter. So the one problem I had at the very beginning of the episode, they're in hyperspace, and he said, "We're gonna be in hyperspace soon." Like, no, dude, you're in hyperspace.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I thought you had done this a few times.
Interesting. That whole look too, when they're sitting there and they're kind of having that really quiet conversation with the hum of hyperspace going on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That was drawn to look like the Millennium Falcon, right? In the background.
Right.
Yeah,
that was
it could be any ship, but the way it was just kind of like it looked like the Falcon.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. This was a good story. I just really enjoyed everything about it. There was nothing that was really bad, and you did get a sense that it did kind of end. Could they pick this up? Maybe. Now that their Sith are out there, maybe there's more. Maybe they go out and look for them. I don't know. It's really hard to say where they would take this at this point. But
right, yeah, because
is this one that you'd want to know?
Yeah, well, when the Elder dies, just to kind of rip, he has a trigger that it blows up his ship, which actually was a really pretty interesting design as well for his Sith ship. But it basically blew it all, and then he crumbles he just crumbles. Shri Karai Karai, I guess. But it's just see what I did there.
Yeah, take us full circle.
Right. Yeah. But he just kind of crumbles, which I thought was really interesting. I don't understand what that was about at all. Like Sith dissolved now, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe
it's possible. You don't have a tinfoil hat theory on that one
of why he just
why he like what that was all about, his dying.
I mean, I don't know.
Or was he just that old to where he was about to fall apart anyway?
Maybe. There you go. He was being held together by like glue, shoestring, duct tape, and the Force. And when he passed, it all just kind of came undone, and he turned into dust. So maybe I don't know. It was interesting that the way he did that, but I don't have a really good theory outside of the leveler, but that's cheap.
Well, and that I refrain from going that path.
The only other thing I'll mention that caught my eye was Taijin goes into the very infamous pose of Qui-Gon when he's fighting Maul, where he picks a lightsaber up and is kind of holding like that. He goes right into that position, which we would see Kenobi use later when he's fighting Maul as well in Rebels. But I mean, this was a very carbon copy kind of character for a Qui-Gon Jinn, which I thought was great.
Yeah, but I really liked the lightsaber battles, and I'm glad they added rain and some of those effects because I thought it just really added. I mean, everything in the rain's kind of cooler, especially with lightsabers, but it really helped focus bring those colors out to make them almost look oversaturated in some ways because the rest of the landscape was very, somewhat gray toned.
Yeah, I see that. Eating ice cream in the rain, not good.
No, that's no.
Never goes well.
Speaking about that, I was talking to some folks about some Mexican vanilla the other day.
Oh yeah, Amy's ice cream.
Yeah, they had something at HEB called Texican vanilla.
Oh, it tastes same, very similar.
I don't know. I didn't get it.
Okay.
Sideshow. Sorry, that was probably after show content, but whatever.
Right, this is more Patreon content. All right, well that's so. Let's end it there in terms of the stories themselves. But I guess kind of give me your overall thoughts now that we've had a chance to kind of walk through every one of these in great detail on the series itself. And do you want a season 2? And what do you expect to see in a season 2 at this point?
Yeah, I definitely want season 2. I think this type of story. I think just stories in general are just fun, and they don't have to be canon. They don't have to be super serious. They can be very different from one another. And I like this wasn't really a series, a television series. It was really more of a collection of stories, right? And so I think of it more like that than I do anything else, right? If even if you look at like Marvel What If and what they've done there, there's some cohesion between some of those episodes where these are all completely standalone. You could see where a couple of them here and there may have fit together, but they're all pretty much standing on their own. I like this, and I think you could take if you wanted to continue to do originals and give others opportunity or tell other stories, you could. But if you want to take a few of these and pick them up, and again, if you make this an ongoing thing where you have multiple seasons, then you don't have to necessarily worry about, okay, well, we've got 6 of them that really dropped off, without any kind of conclusion or resolution. We can do a couple of those at a time for each season, and we go back and remember, and it'll prompt a rewatching of the other seasons too, I think. So I think this is something that they could definitely do. It sounds like it was successful. It sounds like people were really on board with it. It brought people into Star Wars that really aren't Star Wars fans, but they enjoy the media, they enjoy the style. And so I think it was something that's it seems like it was a pretty good success. So
Yeah.
what about you? Is this
No,
something you want to see again, or more continuation or more original content? What's your preference on this?
I'd like to see this as a kind of a nexus for entry, like the entry point for these stories. I don't want them to kind of. I'd rather they not go back and say, okay, we're gonna do. Okay, wait, no, let me pull that, retract that just a little bit. I wouldn't mind if they picked maybe one or two, like the duel, right? Give me. Well, we have the book now, so maybe not duel, but pick one or two of these and say, okay, in season 2, there's going to be a follow up for those two, but the other 7 or whatever that number is are all new stories, and so that way you can kind of keep some momentum going with the storylines from that regard. But then I would like to see them spin this off into like, why wouldn't I'm saying this is not even a fan of this stuff, but why wouldn't they spin this off into like manga, right? They did it with Edge of Balance.
Yeah.
They could easily just, I mean, this would translate really well into that. You could still have all the same characters. You could have the stuff that comes before, some that comes after. And it feels like this is so. One of the things that when I mentioned, and I'll come back to that thought in just a second, but one of the things when we first talked about Star Wars Visions was I was excited to see who was going to be inspired and in what way from having seen this, whether it's somebody that is already a Star Wars fan, not an anime fan, somebody who was an anime fan that was suddenly introduced to Star Wars in a way they had never seen before, and now they be inspired to do something 5-10 years from now. I don't know that we're going to see the fruits of this labor, if you will, until a few years. However, I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. I want to see, like, I would really like to see them to take this and make it its own brand. Like, why couldn't they have a Visions brand where they've got the animation, they've got the manga, they've got more stories, they've got spin-off stuff, and it becomes its own kind of imprint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you've got the High Republic, you've got the canon stuff that's going on there, but then you've got just Visions, which is a whole nother dimension, if you will, right? And I think it has the legs. I think potentially it's possible that they could do something like that with a low investment. Low investment, and they've already proven that they have these creative artists out in Japan that have wanted to get into Star Wars, and they've done so with animation. Now this opens the doors for them to do it with manga and other things as well. So I'd be really kind of interested to see if they could spin this off and make it its own kind of entity from that point on.
And Jeff had a really good point here. We put up on screen. The canon is so deep that it does not get inaccessible. Oh, it does get inaccessible. I really like things that Visions as a way to keep bringing in new fans, and I think that's very much what we're saying here. I think the only thing working against that though is that people do want to see a story play out, and they want to see connectivity, and they want to see like things matter. So if they get invested, they can continue being invested in that story. I mean, that's the whole thing with Luke Skywalker, right?
Mm.
So invested in it, and I think these don't satisfy that interest or that need or that desire for folks. So I think that is really the only thing I see really working against it, is that they are just so different and so disconnected that if you continue releasing them as as a collection of these, like, collection of 9, do people burn out a little bit on that because it's like, okay, well, they're standalone stories, one-offs. Yeah, that's fun for a while, but it's hard for me to continue being invested in all of this. I think that's the only thing that has a concern of mine, because I know if I'm truthful about what I look at for in story, I do want to see things continue. I want to see where they go. I want to see all the ups and the downs. You want to experience all those things, and you feel a little bit let down if you don't get all of those, all those peaks and valleys, right? the high points, the low points of characters. These characters don't have a lot of time to develop within 20 minutes. And so they're having to trim a lot of the fat to where the point where you're trimming the good stuff too that you probably could have expound upon.
Yeah, I definitely see. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Stuff like I think there's a medium though for like when I think of like a Twilight Zone
Yeah,
or amazing stories.
that's true.
They're but here's the thing though. You're not wrong. You're still not. I'm not saying you're wrong
Oh, I
because
know I'm not wrong. Never
you're
wrong.
right. Yeah. What you're saying is those things work because they are self-contained. Yes, they're scrunched down to 30 minutes, but you do have a beginning, middle, and an end. You've got the peaks and valleys. Short, be it they be short, you still have those. You're not left. Yeah, you may be left still wondering what's going to happen afterwards, but there was something fulfilling about that story that was condensed down into that 20, 30-minute block. So if they were to take something like that, then I think it'd be okay. It would work, but in this 15-minute format, I don't think it works. It needs to be a little bit longer, I think, for to your point, for people to feel like, okay, I feel vested in this storyline because it is a little more than just being dropped right in the middle of a story and just having to take a lot of things at face value and really not think too much about stuff and then be left wondering what happens next. That's a little hard. I mean, it's cool for this kind of a concept type thing, but if they're going to expand upon that, then yeah, you're right. I think they got to give us a little bit more there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Things like Twilight Zone and Tales from the Crypt too, right? They're more or less self-contained episodes. Every once in a while, they've got some connectivity to them, but really, they're pretty set within that half hour to an hour timeline, and those still work really well. So that's a good point. Again, you can do it, but again, there's a certain style and commonality, I think, between those episodes, even though they're very different, that you still have the same theme between them and you have a similar type of storytelling style. That's probably not quite right, but I can't really figure out what I'm trying to say here. But there's a certain feel for those episodes that still feel like you're still watching the same show. This feels like you're watching completely different shows every episode you come to, right? Not only the story, but like you said, the visuals, the music, the speech patterns, the voiceovers, all of them are just so independent of one another that there's really it doesn't even feel like the same collection of stories, if you will. It really just feels like totally different. It feels like you got, from a certain point of view is kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably the best comparison I have in the Star Wars world.
Yeah, maybe they put these in an anthology of some sort and in print. That'd be kind of cool too.
Maybe, and that's why I'm surprised. Like Ronin has, I mean, and if there's not a season 2 of Visions, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a Ronin, Star Wars Visions Ronin, or something like that, where they make that into. I'm guessing that would probably be more of a 40 minute to an hour type of episode than a full 2-hour movie or anything like that. But I could see something like that as well, where they take one story and really, and pull it out, and they've already got the book as a reference point.
Yep. Yeah, they've got a lot there to work with. All right, my friend. I think that's going to do it for this episode. Tune in next week when. All right. Any final thoughts before we get to the? I don't know who's here.
Yeah, and this is exciting stuff. I'm glad we have this opportunity to look at different things in Star Wars. I think this is a really neat trend, and I hope it continues. I hope they continue to push those boundaries to things that we don't really normally have. So it's like, why not, right?
Do it. Do more of this. Like I said, cowards, go ahead and announce it.
Right.
You're taking so long to do it. So
I know Kathleen Kennedy's got a little gun shy these days with pulling the trigger too soon.
Yeah. Maybe. So
Ryan who?
Yeah. Let's see. Jeff, Kathy, Tawan, Chef Chris, Steph. That we peaked at. I don't know. There was quite a few people that peaked at one point. So the stalkers, thank you guys for tuning in and going, oh, not those guys again, and jumping right back off. Appreciate that.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll be back next week to cover Ronin. It won't be this weekend. So again, I'm giving you it'll probably be in the midweek. So I've got something planned this weekend as well. So I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there. Ish. That's somewhere. I don't know.
I got this email. Hey, the key to a successful podcast is consistency. I'm like, well,
yeah. Just throw it out the door.
Close up shop.
Yeah.
Just close it up now.
Not when you've been around this long, though. Now you can do whatever the heck you want.
Right. So, but we do plan on getting together here the next day or so to do a Patreon show, like we were talking about earlier, to give some attention to Trail of Shadows and see what we're getting there, and have some conversation about that. Again, we're not likely to go panel by panel, but definitely get a flavor for that story. It'll probably be very spoiler filled for issue 1, but we will try to get that recorded here the next day or so and have that out for the weekend, so you have something to listen to at your discretion.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
thanks everyone.
Anything else?
Nope.
Have we covered everything?
I think we have covered all the things.
I'm stalling because I can't find the dang credits to roll.
Oh boy.
Here, I just found them.
Yeah, the wonders of live television.
Now we're leaving, so we'll see you guys next week.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.